The billionaire smirked arrogantly. "I'll give you $1 million if you take my order in Arabic." But the waitress's fluent response left everyone speechless. Let's dive into today's story. Table 12 needs attention. The Arab billionaire. Elena Martinez nodded at her manager, smoothing down her black apron before approaching the corner booth. Working at Aurelia, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, meant dealing with the world's elite, film stars, politicians, and billionaires who treated the staff like props in their elaborate lives. But it covered rent, and after what happened at the State Department 3 years ago, invisibility was exactly what she craved. The man at table 12 radiated wealth and arrogance. Impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary, he reclined in his seat like an emperor surveying his domain. His dark beard was meticulously groomed, framing lips curved in perpetual amusement. 2 other men in expensive attire flanked him, but they were clearly subordinates. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Aurelia. May I start you with something to drink?" Elena's professional smile never wavered, despite the way his eyes assessed her like merchandise on display. Instead of answering, he turned to his companions and said something in Arabic, triggering laughter from the group. Elena stood patiently, her expression revealing nothing. She'd dealt with worse. "A bottle of your 1990 Chateau Lafite," he finally said, his accent subtle but distinct. "And perhaps you could recommend something extraordinary." His eyes lingered on her name tag, then traveled back to her face. "The sommelier suggests our chef's prix-fixe menu tonight, featuring a dry, aged ribeye course that's exclusive to this evening," she replied smoothly. He leaned forward, planting his elbows on the table. "I'm not interested in what everyone else orders. I'm Malik Hassan. Perhaps you've heard of me." She hadn't, but nodded courteously. "I own the Emerald Tower Group." He paused for recognition. When it didn't come, irritation flickered across his features. "I just purchased the property across the street. Soon, this entire block will belong to me." "Congratulations, Mr. Hassan. I'll retrieve that wine for you." Elena turned to leave, but his voice halted her. "Wait." His tone had shifted, carrying an edge of provocation. The restaurant had grown quieter, as if anticipating the brewing drama. "I have a proposition for you." His companions exchanged knowing glances. Elena's pulse quickened, but her expression remained neutral. "Sir?" Malik reached into his jacket and withdrew a sleek leather checkbook. With deliberate slowness, he wrote out a check and placed it on the table. $1 million. His voice carried just loud enough for neighboring tables to hear. "If you can take my dinner order in Arabic." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the violinist in the corner had stopped playing. "That's inappropriate, sir," Elena said quietly. "Is it?" Malik's smile widened. "I'm simply celebrating culture. Most Americans only speak one language. Prove me wrong. $1 million. He tapped the check with a manicured finger. "Just a few sentences in Arabic. Or is that beyond the capabilities of a waitress?" The way he pronounced waitress made it sound like the most degrading profession imaginable. "Are you enjoying the story so far? If you are, subscribe to Principled Stories to see more incredible tales from around the world. Hit that subscribe button and like this video so we don't disappear from the algorithm. Your support keeps these stories coming. Now, back to our story." Heat crept up Elena's neck, but not from embarrassment. From anger. He leaned back, triumphant at her silence. "As I thought. The wine, then." Elena's Arabic flowed effortlessly, her pronunciation impeccable. "I would be honored to take your order, sir. What would you like to enjoy this evening?" Malik froze, his smug expression evaporating. His companions looked equally stunned. She continued in Arabic, her voice gaining confidence. "May I suggest our signature dry-aged ribeye? It's prepared for 14 hours and seasoned with spices imported from Lebanon." The restaurant had gone completely silent. Every patron was fixated on their table. Malik recovered first, responding in Arabic. "Where did you learn to speak with such authentic dialect?" "Princeton. Princeton University's Department of Linguistics. I specialized in Semitic languages." Elena switched back to English. "Will that be all, Mr. Hassan? Or would you like to hear my Farsi as well?" A flush crawled up Malik's neck. "You speak Farsi as well?" Also German, Russian, and sufficient Mandarin to navigate. She gestured to the check. Will you be settling that now? Or after your meal? The nearby diners erupted in whispers. One gentleman actually applauded. Something transformed in Malik's eyes. Irritation melting into genuine fascination. Princeton linguistics. Yet, you're working as a waitress? Life takes unexpected turns. Elena's smile tightened. Now, about that wine. As she pivoted, Malik called after her. The check is yours. I'm a man of my word. She paused, then looked over her shoulder. Keep your money, Mr. Hassan. I don't need your condescension. The words tasted sweet as she walked away, head held high. Behind her, Malik Hassan stared in disbelief, for perhaps the first time in his adult life, completely speechless. Malik couldn't stop watching her. The waitress, Elena, according to her name tag, moved through the restaurant with quiet grace. Nothing in her bearing suggested she was anything other than what she appeared. Yet she'd just spoken to him, in flawless Arabic, with a regional accent he typically only encountered in diplomatic settings. Should I have security investigate her? Rashid, his head of security, murmured beside him. Malik dismissed the suggestion with a wave. No. But discover everything you can. His reputation for exhaustive research was legendary. No contract was signed, no property acquired without comprehensive background checks on all parties involved. Princeton linguistics to waiting tables, he mused, swirling the deep red wine in his glass. There's a story there. The truth was, Malik was restless. Building his tower empire from the ashes of his father's struggling business had consumed the past 12 years of his life. Now at 34, he'd accomplished everything he'd aimed for. The New York expansion was nearly finalized. His offer for the historic Morrison building, almost secured. Success had become monotonous. But this woman, she was an enigma, and enigmas were scarce in his world. When she returned with their appetizers, Malik studied her more intently, subtle details he'd overlooked before. The way she carried herself, her impeccable posture, the faint callus on her right index finger from extensive writing. Her hands moved with intentional precision, placing each dish exactly. These are courtesy of the chef, she said, presenting elegant plates of seared scallops with saffron foam. Please, convey my gratitude. Malik maintained eye contact longer than necessary. And I apologize for my earlier conduct. It was ungentlemanly. Her expression revealed nothing. Enjoy your meal, sir. As she departed, Rashid leaned in. I have preliminary information, he said discreetly. Elena Martinez, 26 years old. New Jersey driver's license shows a Princeton address until 3 years ago. Then, nothing, until she surfaces in New York 16 months ago. Current address is in Brooklyn. That's remarkably sparse for you, Malik noted. It's remarkably difficult information to locate, Rashid replied. Almost as if her records have been professionally erased, Malik finished the thought, his interest intensifying. In his experience, people who eliminated their pasts had something substantial to conceal. The meal progressed, each course more exquisite than the last, but Malik barely registered the food. His attention remained fixed on Elena, observing her interactions with other tables, noting how she subtly adjusted between different personas to accommodate each patron's expectations. When she brought their dessert, a deconstructed baklava with edible gold, Malik decided to try again. Ms. Martinez, I wonder if I might ask you something. Her professional smile remained firmly in place. Of course, Mr. Hassan. Why would someone with your credentials choose this profession? He kept his tone conversational, genuinely curious rather than patronizing. Perhaps I find it fulfilling, she replied simply. Do you? A ghost of a genuine smile touched her lips. Some days more than others. And today? Today has presented its challenges. She glanced meaningfully at him. Malik found himself smiling in return. A genuine smile, not the practiced expression he used for business negotiations. The check still stands. $1 million. No conditions attached. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Why? Because I made a wager and lost. I'm a businessman, Ms. Martinez. I honor my commitments. It wasn't a commitment. It was mockery at my expense. Then, Consider it compensation for my rudeness. She studied him for a prolonged moment. Donate it to the Global Literacy Foundation. They do meaningful work. Before he could respond, a disturbance at the restaurant entrance captured their attention. A tall man with silver hair in an expensive suit was arguing with the host. Even from across the room, Malik could see the man was intoxicated. Elena's entire demeanor transformed instantly. Her spine stiffened, and color drained from her face. Without another word to Malik, she turned and walked swiftly toward the kitchen. Malik watched with interest as the host finally admitted the man inside. He stumbled slightly, scanning the restaurant with bloodshot eyes before focusing on Elena's retreating figure. "Elena!" His voice carried across the dining room. "Elena Martinez." She froze momentarily, then continued walking without looking back. The man started after her but was intercepted by the restaurant manager. "What's happening?" Omar, Malik's other dinner companion, asked. "I'm not certain," Malik murmured, "but I intend to discover." He signaled Rashid with a subtle gesture. His security chief rose smoothly and approached the developing situation, identifying himself to the manager with a discreet display of credentials. After a brief conversation, Rashid guided the intoxicated man toward the exit. By the time Elena returned to their table, the incident was resolved. If not for the tension around her eyes, she might have appeared completely composed. "Is everything all right?" Malik asked. "Fine. Will there be anything else, gentlemen?" Malik hesitated, then decided against pressing. "Just the bill. The real one," he added with a small smile. As she processed his payment, Malik made a decision. He wrote a different amount on the gratuity line, $15,000, and signed with a flourish. "This is excessive," she said when she saw it. "Consider it an investment." "In what?" "A future conversation." He handed her his business card. "Contact me if you ever decide you want more than this." Her eyes flashed. "Not everyone measures success by the size of their bank account, Mr. Hassan." "No? What's your measure then?" She returned his card. "Integrity. Something money can't purchase." As she walked away, Malik felt something unfamiliar stir within him. Respect mingled with fascination. He couldn't recall the last time anyone had spoken to him that way. "Sir," Rashid said, returning to the table. "You should know something about that man." "Who was he?" "Jonathan Caldwell. Former State Department official." Rashid leaned closer. "And according to what I discovered, Elena Martinez once worked directly under him. You need to leave immediately." Sophia, Elena's roommate, stood in the doorway of their compact Brooklyn apartment, arms crossed. Behind her, suitcases were already packed. "What's happening?" Elena had just finished a grueling double shift, her encounter with Malik Hassan overshadowed by Jonathan Caldwell's unexpected appearance. She'd hoped to come home, take a scalding shower, and collapse into bed. "Two men were asking about you in the building." Sophia's voice trembled slightly. "Showing your photograph. Dark suits, earpieces. They didn't look like police." Cold dread washed over Elena. "Did they see you?" "No. Mrs. Chen from 4 degrees Celsius warned me." "Elena, you promised when you moved in that whatever you were running from wouldn't follow you here." "I know. I'm sorry." Elena moved quickly, grabbing the emergency bag she kept in her closet. Passport, cash, burner phone, and the compact pistol she'd hoped never to use again. "Is this about your previous job? The one you never discuss?" Sophia demanded. Elena paused, considering how much to reveal. Sophia deserved something, after being such a loyal friend. "I used to work as a translator. I overheard something I shouldn't have. People died." She zipped up the bag. "That's all I can say." Sophia's expression softened. "Where will you go?" "Better if you don't know." Elena hugged her friend tightly. "I'll send money for rent until you find a new roommate." "Forget the rent. Just stay safe." 20 minutes later, Elena was in a taxi, heading toward Queens. She destroyed her phone after sending one text to David, her only contact from her former life. He would understand the coded message: storm approaching, seeking shelter. The past was catching up, just as she'd feared. Jonathan, appearing drunk at the restaurant, wasn't coincidence. After 3 years of constantly looking over her shoulder, she'd grown careless. and now she would face the consequences. The taxi dropped her at a busy intersection, and she walked 4 blocks. Before hailing another to throw off any potential surveillance, she checked into a modest hotel using one of her alternate IDs, paid cash for 3 nights, and finally allowed herself to exhale. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Elena tried to piece together what had occurred. Jonathan appearing the same night as Malik Hassan couldn't be coincidental. But what was the connection? The Hassan name wasn't one she recalled from her time at the UN or State Department. Her phone buzzed. The burner. David. Mutual contact, asking questions. Not safe. Old location, compromised. Meet at the library. 2 o'clock tomorrow. Elena closed her eyes, exhaustion threatening to overwhelm her. Sleep would have to wait. She opened her laptop and began researching Malik Hassan. The publicly available information painted a clear picture. 34 years old, born to a moderately successful Emirati businessman and an American mother, educated at Oxford, inherited his father's struggling tower business at 22, when both parents died in a plane crash. Over the next decade, he transformed one mid-tier property into the Emerald Tower Group, a global luxury chain with buildings on 5 continents. What interested Elena more was what she couldn't find: no scandals, no political connections, no suspicious business dealings that might link to her past work. By all appearances, Malik Hassan was exactly what he claimed: a successful businessman with an arrogant streak. A knock at her door jolted her from her research. Elena froze, hand moving to the gun in her bag. No one knew she was here. "Ms. Martinez," a male voice muffled through the door. "I apologize for the late hour." She recognized the voice. Rashid, Malik's security chief. How had they located her so quickly? "I'm not here to harm you," he continued. "Mr. Hassan would like to speak with you. It's urgent. Give me one reason why I should trust you." Elena kept her voice steady, gun now in hand. "Because Jonathan Caldwell was found dead an hour ago, and you're about to be framed for his murder." The world tilted beneath her feet. Jonathan dead? Impossible. "If you don't believe me, check the news," Rashid said. Elena grabbed her phone, finding a breaking news alert: former State Department official found dead in Manhattan hotel. She approached the door cautiously. "How did you find me?" "We followed the men who were following you." That made a twisted kind of sense. She peered through the peephole. Rashid stood alone, hands visible and empty. "Mr. Hassan is waiting in the car," he said. "He believes he knows why this is happening, and he wants to help." "Why would he help me?" "Because his parents' plane crash wasn't an accident, and he believes the same people who killed them are now coming for you." Elena's mind raced. The connection she'd been missing. It wasn't about her time at the UN. It was something earlier, from her father's diplomatic career. "My father," she said suddenly. "Robert Martinez. He worked with the Emirati Diplomatic Corps in the 1990s. Rashid nodded. "He saved Malik's father during an attempted coup. Tonight, Mr. Hassan realized who you were." The pieces were falling into place with dizzying speed. Her father's mysterious death 6 years ago ruled a heart attack despite his excellent health. The classified files she'd discovered at the State Department. The conversation she'd overheard that had forced her into hiding. "I need answers," she said, finally. "Mr. Hassan has some," Rashid replied. "And together, you might find the rest." Elena made her decision. She gathered her bag, tucked the gun into her waistband, and opened the door. Outside, a sleek black Mercedes waited at the curb. As Rashid opened the rear door, Elena caught sight of Malik watching her, his expression grave. Gone was the arrogant businessman from the restaurant, replaced by someone altogether more formidable. "Ms. Martinez?" he said, as she slid into the seat beside him. "I believe we have a common enemy. And who would that be?" His eyes met hers, dark with controlled fury. "The same people who murdered our fathers, and are now trying to eliminate loose ends. Starting with Jonathan Caldwell, and ending with us." The car pulled away from the curb, carrying Elena into yet another uncertain future. This time with the most unlikely of allies. "We need to move quickly." Malik's penthouse overlooked Central Park, the glittering cityscape a stark contrast to the tension filling the room. "They'll realize you've vanished soon enough." Elena stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, arms crossed protectively over her chest. "I'm still waiting for you to tell me who they are." Malik poured 2 glasses of scotch, offering one to her. When she hesitated, he took a deliberate sip from her glass before handing it over. Trust issues. Understandable, given the circumstances. She accepted the drink, but didn't taste it. "My father, Ibrahim Hassan, wasn't just a property developer," Malik began, settling into a leather armchair. "He was an intelligence asset for the American government, specifically working with the CIA's Middle Eastern operations throughout the 1990s. Elena's eyes widened. "My father was stationed in Abu Dhabi during that time." "Exactly. Robert Martinez, cultural liaison." "At least that was his cover." Malik's gaze was steady. "He was actually CIA, wasn't he?" She remained silent for a long moment, before nodding. "Yes. But I didn't know that until after his death. Our fathers worked together to prevent a coup that would have destabilized the entire region. Your father saved mine during an assassination attempt in 1997. Malik pulled out his phone, showing her a faded photograph. 2 younger men standing together, smiling. One was clearly Ibrahim Hassan. The other, Robert Martinez. "I've never seen this," Elena whispered, taking the phone. "They became friends. Not just assets and handlers. When my father married my American mother, your father was best man at their wedding." Malik's voice softened. "After the coup attempt failed, my father relocated to London, where I was born. We returned to the Emirates only after things had stabilized, but he maintained his connection to American intelligence. And this relates to Jonathan Caldwell." "How?" Elena asked, handing back the phone. "Caldwell was State Department, but he had deep CIA connections. When my parents died in that plane crash 12 years ago, he was the one who managed the American side of the investigation, which concluded it was an accident. But it wasn't," Elena noted. "Yes. Except it wasn't." Malik's jaw tightened. "The official story was mechanical failure, but I've spent years gathering evidence that the plane was sabotaged by the same faction that attempted the coup years earlier. That's a serious accusation. I have proof." Malik pulled a leather folder from his desk, spreading documents across the table. Bank transfers, encrypted. Communications, flight maintenance records that mysteriously vanished from official reports. Elena scanned the papers, her translator's eye quickly identifying inconsistencies in the Arabic documents. "These maintenance logs have been altered." "Yes, and I believe Jonathan Caldwell was involved in the cover-up." Elena's mind raced. "When I worked at the UN as a translator, I overheard Caldwell discussing something called Operation Desert Wind with Emirati officials. I didn't understand the significance at the time, but when I mentioned it to him later, he became threatening." "What exactly did you hear?" Malik leaned forward. "Names, dates, something about Phase 2 being initiated." She swallowed hard. 2 weeks later, classified documents appeared in my secure diplomatic pouch. Files that implicated Caldwell and others in selling intelligence to Emirati extremists. "The same extremists who tried to overthrow the government my father helped protect," Malik said grimly. "I took the documents to my superior. 3 days later, he died in a mugging gone wrong. That's when I ran." Elena's hands trembled slightly. "I changed my identity. Disappeared. I thought I was being paranoid until your father died of a convenient heart attack," Malik finished softly. Tears pricked her eyes. "How did you know?" "Because that's their signature. My mother's sister died the same way 8 months after my parents. Clean, untraceable." Elena finally took a long swallow of scotch. "So Jonathan's death wasn't about me. It was a message. They're cleaning house, eliminating everyone who might connect them to Operation Desert Wind." Malik's eyes met hers. "Including us. Why now? After all this time?" "Because the final phase is approaching." Malik pointed to a document showing a complex transaction. "They've been siphoning billions from sovereign wealth funds for years, using shell companies and cryptocurrency to hide the money. Next week, those funds are scheduled to transfer to accounts controlled by former Emirati intelligence officials, the same ones who orchestrated the coup attempt 25 years ago. And they're planning to use that money for what exactly? To finance something massive, something that would destabilize not just the Emirates, but the entire Middle East." Malik's expression darkened. I've been tracking their movements, their purchases, weapons, mercenaries. They're planning coordinated strikes across multiple countries. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. How could they possibly execute that without intelligence agencies knowing? Because they have allies inside those agencies, including Caldwell. The implications were staggering. Elena paced the room, mind racing. We need to take this to the authorities. Tell them what? That an Emirati developer and an American waitress have uncovered an international conspiracy? Malik's laugh was bitter. We'd be dismissed as paranoid or silenced before we could speak. Then what do you suggest? We find concrete proof linking them to Caldwell's murder and Operation Desert Wind, evidence so irrefutable that even their allies in government can't ignore it. And where exactly do we find this proof? Malik's smile was dangerous. The annual Emerald Charity Gala is tomorrow night, at my flagship tower. Samir al-Rashid will be there. The man I believe orchestrated my parents' death and this entire operation. You want to confront a terrorist at your own charity event? No. Malik replied smoothly. I want to steal the evidence from his penthouse suite while he's at my charity event. Elena stared at him in disbelief. You can't be serious. Deadly serious. His security will be downstairs monitoring him. His suite will be vulnerable. That's insane. Even if we could access his room, what makes you think he'd bring incriminating evidence with him? Because I made sure he would. Malik's eyes gleamed. I've spent 12 years building this tower empire for one purpose, to get close to these men, to earn their trust, to lure them into my territory. The realization dawned on Elena. This whole time, your business, your success, it was a means to an end. Justice for my parents. Malik's voice hardened. Elena felt newfound respect mingling with apprehension. She'd misjudged him. Beneath the arrogant billionaire exterior was someone driven by the same need for truth that had consumed her life. I still think this is insane, she said finally. Do you have a better plan? She didn't. Besides, Malik added, you speak 6 languages and managed to disappear completely for 3 years. I suspect breaking into a penthouse isn't beyond your capabilities. Despite everything, Elena found herself smiling. I never said I couldn't do it. I just said it was insane. So you'll help? Their eyes locked, an unspoken understanding passing between them. 2 people, from different worlds connected by shared tragedy and a dangerous mission. Yes, she said finally. But we do this my way, clean, professional, with contingency plans for when, not if, something goes wrong. Malik nodded, respect evident in his gaze. Agreed. Rashid entered the room, his expression grave. Sir, there's been a development. The police are at Ms. Martinez's apartment. They've issued a warrant for her arrest in connection with Jonathan Caldwell's murder. Faster than I expected, Malik murmured. Elena felt the walls closing in. I need to leave the country. No, Malik said firmly. That's exactly what they want. To flush you out. Make you run. The moment you hit an airport or border crossing, they'll have you. So I'm trapped? No, Malik corrected. You're protected. For now. This penthouse has private elevator access and security measures that would impress the Pentagon. No one enters without my authorization. He approached her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Cedar and something uniquely his own. One night. Tomorrow we get the evidence, and then I'll have my jet ready to take us wherever we need to go. Elena felt a strange flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with fear. Us? I started this hunt 12 years ago, Malik said quietly. I intend to see it through to the end. The intensity in his eyes stirred something in her. Something she'd thought long buried beneath layers of trauma and survival instinct. One night, she agreed, stepping back slightly to break the tension. But I'm not wearing an evening gown to commit felony breaking and entering. Malik's smile returned, transforming his face. Actually, that's exactly what you'll be wearing. The perfect disguise is often hidden in plain sight. For the first time in years, Elena felt a spark of hope amidst the danger. Tomorrow would change everything, one way or another. The emerald gown shimmered under the chandeliers of the Emerald Tower's grand ballroom. Elena adjusted the delicate mask covering the upper half of her face, grateful for the anonymity it provided at this masquerade charity gala. From across the room, Malik caught her eye, raising his champagne glass slightly in acknowledgement. He looked devastating in his tuxedo, his own black mask lending him an air of mystery that suited him perfectly. No one would guess that beneath their elegant exteriors, they were planning a high-stakes infiltration. "Remember," Rashid's voice came through the nearly invisible earpiece. "Al-Rashid arrived 10 minutes ago. Suite 5210. His security team has 4 men, 2 at the gala, 2 patrolling the executive floor." "Copy that," Elena murmured, pretending to sip her champagne. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. As host, Malik would keep Al-Rashid occupied at the gala. Elena, introduced as Malik's companion, a French art consultant named Isabelle Laurent, would excuse herself, then use the security credentials Rashid had prepared to access the executive floor. "Enjoying yourself, darling?" Malik appeared at her side, placing a possessive hand at the small of her back. "Immensely," she replied, affecting a slight French accent. "Your charity events are always so captivating." "Wait until the auction," he murmured, his lips close to her ear. To observers, they appeared to be sharing an intimate moment. In reality, he was updating her. Al-Rashid brought his entire entourage. "Security is heavier than we anticipated. Nothing I can't handle." Her confidence wasn't entirely feigned. The skills that had once made her an exceptional diplomatic translator, attention to detail, quick thinking, adaptability, had served her well during her 3 years on the run. Of that, I have no doubt. Something in his tone made her look up sharply. Their eyes met through their masks, and the genuine admiration she saw there caught her off guard. "Mr. Hassan," a heavily accented voice interrupted them. "A magnificent event as always." Malik turned smoothly, his demeanor shifting to gracious host. "Mr. Al-Rashid, I'm honored you could attend." Samir al-Rashid was an imposing figure, tall and lean with silver hair and a meticulously trimmed beard. His eyes, however, were cold as they assessed Elena. "And who is this enchanting creature?" "Isabelle Laurent," Malik said, squeezing her hand in warning. "A dear friend from Paris." "Enchanté," Elena murmured, extending her hand. Al-Rashid brought it to his lips. "The pleasure is mine, mademoiselle." Something about his touch made her skin crawl, but she maintained her smile. This man had orchestrated the deaths of Malik's parents, possibly her father, and countless others. "Isabelle is curating my new art collection," Malik continued smoothly. "She has an exceptional eye for value." Indeed, Al-Rashid's gaze lingered on her. "Perhaps she might offer her opinion on some pieces I've recently acquired." "Another time perhaps," Malik intervened. "The auction is about to begin. Would you join me at the main table? You're seated at my right, of course." As they moved away, Al-Rashid glanced back at her. There was something in his expression, a flicker of recognition, that sent a chill down her spine. "Now," Rashid's voice came through the earpiece. "Security shift change is happening. You have 12 minutes. Elena waited 30 seconds, then made her way toward the exit, pausing to chat briefly with a server, establishing her presence in case anyone was watching. Once in the corridor, she moved quickly to the service elevator, swiping the security card Rashid had provided. The executive floor was silent, the plush carpeting muffling her footsteps. Using the small tablet Rashid had given her, she tracked the security guards' positions via the tower system. 2 red dots moved along the west corridor, heading away from Al-Rashid's suite. Perfect. Suite 5210 was secured with both a keycard reader and a digital keypad. Rashid had provided the override codes, assuring her they would work. Elena held her breath as she entered the sequence, exhaling only when the light turned green, and the lock disengaged with a soft click. Al-Rashid's suite was opulent even by Emerald Tower standards, a sprawling collection of rooms with panoramic views of the Manhattan skyline. Elena moved efficiently, searching for the briefcase Malik had told her to find. Al-Rashid never traveled without it, a custom-made Louis Vuitton piece with distinctive platinum hardware. She found it in the bedroom, locked inside the closet safe. The override code worked here too, and the safe door swung open to reveal the briefcase. "I found it," she whispered into her communicator. "Beginning extraction." The briefcase was secured with a biometric lock, fingerprint, and retinal scan, normally impossible to bypass. But Rashid had prepared for this. From her clutch, Elena removed what looked like a compact mirror but was actually a specialized electronic device. When placed over the biometric scanner, it cycled through stored patterns until it found a match. 2 minutes. Rashid warned in her ear. Guards are completing their rounds. The device beeped softly, and the briefcase clicked open. Inside were several folders and a small external hard drive. Elena worked quickly, photographing each document with a miniature camera disguised as a lipstick tube, then downloading the contents of the hard drive to a duplicate that would leave no trace of the intrusion. What she saw made her blood run cold. Operation Desert Wind was far worse than they'd imagined. Not just a coup attempt, but a coordinated series of attacks designed to throw the entire region into chaos. The documents contained lists of operatives, financial transactions, weapons caches, and, most damning, communications with someone identified only as American Eagle, Caldwell. The evidence was irrefutable. Emails, photographs, bank transfers, all linking Al-Rashid, Caldwell, and others to a conspiracy of staggering proportions. 30 seconds, Rashid urged. Elena finished the download, replaced everything exactly as she'd found it, and closed the briefcase. She returned it to the safe, reset the lock, and was halfway to the door when she heard voices in the corridor. Check the package before rejoining Mr. Al-Rashid. Guards coming to the suite. Elena froze, calculating options. The bathroom, too obvious. Under the bed, juvenile. The balcony, possible, but risky. 52 floors above Manhattan left little margin for error. The voices grew closer. The card reader beeped. In a split-second decision, Elena slipped behind the heavy floor-length curtains just as the door opened. She controlled her breathing, standing perfectly still as footsteps entered the suite. 2 men speaking Arabic. One checked the safe, a routine security measure. The other moved around the sitting room. Neither approached the curtains, but Elena's heart hammered as one paused nearby. "All secure," one finally said. "Let's return downstairs." The door closed. Elena waited 30 seconds before emerging, legs slightly shaky from the adrenaline. "Status?" Rashid's voice was tense. "Mission accomplished," she whispered. "Heading back now." The return journey went smoothly. Service elevator down to the mezzanine then. A quick stop in the ladies' room to compose herself before rejoining the gala. Malik found her immediately, his relief evident despite his mask. "Everything all right, darling?" he asked for the benefit of those nearby. "Perfect," she replied, smiling up at him. "Though I find myself with a slight headache. Perhaps we could leave soon." "Of course." He signaled a server for champagne. "One last toast and we'll go." As they clinked glasses, Al-Rashid approached again, this time with a stunning woman on his arm. "Leaving so soon, Hassan? The night is young." "Isabel isn't feeling well," Malik explained smoothly. Al-Rashid's eyes narrowed slightly as he studied Elena. "Have we met before, mademoiselle? Something about you seems familiar." Elena's heart stuttered, but her smile never wavered. "I doubt it. I spend most of my time in Europe. Perhaps at the diplomatic reception in Monaco last year?" He pressed. "I'm afraid not. I was in Milan that season." The lie came easily, her French accent impeccable. Something shifted in Al-Rashid's expression. Suspicion giving way to certainty. "No," he said softly. "I remember now. It was Washington, at the Emirati embassy." Ice flooded Elena's veins. She had attended a function there during her UN days. Had he seen her? "You're mistaken," Malik interjected. "Isabel has never been to Washington." Al-Rashid smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "My apologies then. Memory can be deceptive." As they made their excuses and moved toward the exit, Elena felt Al-Rashid's gaze following them. He knew. Somehow, he knew. In the limousine, she finally released the breath she'd been holding. "He recognized me." "Impossible," Rashid said from the front seat. "Your disguise was perfect." He mentioned Washington, the Emirati embassy. She turned to Malik. "I was there 4 years ago, translating for a UN delegation." Malik's expression darkened. "If he knows who you are, then we've lost the element of surprise," she finished grimly. Did you get what we needed? Samantha nodded, removing the miniature camera and flash drive from her clutch. Everything. Names, dates, plans, and proof that Caldwell was their American contact. Then we still have leverage. Malik took her hand, his touch unexpectedly gentle. One more night. We compile the evidence, create insurance files, and tomorrow we take this to the one person who can help us. Who? The current CIA director, my father's oldest friend. Hope flickered, then died. If al-Rashid recognized me, we may not have until tomorrow. As if confirming her fears, Rashid's phone buzzed. His expression turned grim as he read the message. Security breach at the penthouse, he reported. Someone attempted to override the elevator access. Malik's grip on her hand tightened. Change of plans. We're not going back to the penthouse. Where then? Elena asked. Somewhere they'd never look for a billionaire and a fugitive. A smile played at the corner of his mouth. My mother's old apartment in Brooklyn. I kept it after she died. Never listed it under my name. As the limousine changed direction, heading toward the Brooklyn Bridge, Elena felt a strange sense of inevitability. In less than 24 hours, her world had been turned upside down yet again. But this time, she wasn't running alone. She glanced at Malik, finding him already watching her, his dark eyes intense. Why are you helping me? She asked softly. You could have handed me over, saved yourself the trouble. Because 12 years ago, I made a promise over my parents' graves, to find the truth no matter the cost. His voice dropped lower. And because when you answered me in Arabic at the restaurant, I saw something in you that I recognize in myself. What's that? Someone who refuses to be broken by circumstance. The simple truth of his words touched something deep within her. For the first time in years, Elena felt truly seen. As the city lights blurred past the windows, she allowed herself to lean slightly against his shoulder. Tomorrow would bring either justice or ruin. But tonight at least, she wasn't facing it alone. Dawn broke over the Brooklyn neighborhood, painting the modest apartment in soft golden light. Elena sat cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by printouts of the evidence they'd stolen. Beside her, Malik reviewed financial records on his laptop, his suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, a far cry from the polished billionaire the world knew. Rashid entered, setting down coffee and the burner phones he'd acquired overnight. No signs of surveillance. The safe house is secure for now. How much longer? Elena murmured, sorting another document into her proof pile. They'd worked through the night, organizing the evidence into an airtight case that even the most skeptical authorities couldn't ignore. Director Harrison has confirmed the meeting, Malik announced, checking one of the burners. 1 o'clock today, at the secure location. Elena nodded, though anxiety gnawed at her. If al-Rashid has already realized who I am, we'll be long gone before he can act, Malik assured her, placing a hand over hers. The casual intimacy of the gesture surprised them both, but neither pulled away. The past 20 hours had forged a connection between them that defied explanation. Perhaps it was their shared mission, or the parallel tragedies that had shaped their lives. Or perhaps it was something more primal, the recognition of a kindred spirit in the most unexpected place. What happens after? She asked quietly. If this works, if we bring them down, what then? Malik considered this, his expression thoughtful. I haven't allowed myself to think that far ahead. Revenge has been my purpose for so long. And now? Their eyes met, unspoken possibilities hanging between them. Before Malik could answer, Rashid's phone chimed. Perimeter alert, he said sharply, moving to the window. Black SUV. 2 men, watching the building. How? Malik demanded. This address isn't connected to me in any way. Elena's mind raced. The charity guest list. If al-Rashid has access to facial recognition software, he could have identified me despite the mask. And if they're monitoring financial transactions. The catering, Malik realized. I had food delivered here last night, paid from an account they could trace. We need to move, now. Rashid was already gathering the evidence, shoving it into a secure briefcase. They had prepared for this contingency. The apartment had 2 exits, the main door and a fire escape accessible through the bedroom window. Elena quickly changed from her borrowed sweats into jeans and a hoodie, better suited for blending in and running if necessary. Malik emerged from the bedroom similarly dressed in casual clothes that would have been unrecognizable to anyone accustomed to seeing him in bespoke suits. With a Yankees cap pulled low over his eyes and stubble darkening his jaw, he looked like an entirely different person. "Director Harrison is sending a security team," he informed them, checking the second burner phone. "ETA, 18 minutes. We may not have 18 minutes, Rashid warned, peering through the blinds. 2 more men just joined the first team. They're approaching the building. Elena felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. The same sensation that had kept her alive for 3 years on the run. "The fire escape. We can reach the subway before they realize we're gone." "And risk being separated?" Malik shook his head. "We stay together." "There's no time to argue," Rashid interrupted. "They're inside the building." A decision was made in seconds. Rashid would create a diversion at the front entrance, while Elena and Malik escaped via the fire escape with the evidence. They would meet Director Harrison at the backup location, a marina in Red Hook that Harrison had used for off-the-books meetings for years. "Be careful," Malik told Rashid, clasping his shoulder. "You too, sir." Rashid's usual formality slipped, revealing the friendship beneath their professional relationship. "It has been an honor." Elena felt a lump in her throat at the simple exchange. These men had risked everything: Malik's empire, Rashid's career, their very lives, all for justice, for truth, for her. They moved swiftly to the fire escape, the metal creaking beneath their weight. 3 floors down, they heard shouting from above. Their pursuers had found the apartment. "Move," Malik urged, helping her navigate the last ladder to the alley below. They ran, the briefcase of evidence clutched tightly in Elena's arms. Malik knew these streets from his childhood visits to his mother's home, leading them through a maze of alleys and side streets to throw off any pursuit. The subway station appeared ahead. Salvation in the form of crowded anonymity. They descended the stairs, just as a train arrived, slipping inside as the doors closed. In the relative safety of the crowded car, Elena allowed herself to breathe. Beside her, Malik checked his watch. 90 minutes until we meet Harrison. "Will Rashid be okay?" "He can take care of himself," though concern lingered in his voice. "And he has diplomatic immunity through my company. They can detain him, but they can't hold him." The train rocked gently as it moved through the tunnel, the mundane normalcy of commuters, around them a stark contrast to the life-and-death stakes of their mission. "Thank you," Elena said suddenly. "For believing me. For helping me." Malik studied her face, reaching up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "I should be thanking you. For 3 years I've been collecting evidence, building my case, piece by piece. But it was you who found the final proof we needed." The tenderness in his touch, so at odds with the arrogant man she first met at the restaurant, made something flutter in her chest. How strange that, in the midst of danger, on the run for their lives, she should feel more alive than she had in years. "If we survive this," she began hesitantly. "When we survive this," he corrected. "When we survive this," she amended with a small smile. "What will you do? Go back to your towers, your life?" Malik's expression grew serious. "That life was built on a foundation of vengeance. Once that purpose is fulfilled—" He shook his head. "I don't know who I am without it." "You're the man who turned $1 million wager into a mission for justice," Elena offered. "The man who saw value in a waitress, when others saw only someone to be dismissed." His smile transformed his face, erasing years of hardened determination. "And you are the woman who refused my $1 million on principle. Who survived alone for 3 years, rather than compromise her integrity." The train slowed as it approached the next station. Through the windows, they could see the industrial waterfront. Their destination was close. They exited cautiously, scanning for any signs of pursuit. The area was quiet on this weekday morning, mostly warehouses and marine supply shops. They walked briskly, taking indirect routes, frequently changing direction to ensure they weren't followed. The marina appeared ahead, its weathered docks stretching out into the East River. Outside, 2 inconspicuous men in casual clothes, Harrison's security team, stood watch. They nodded slightly as Malik and Elena approached, a prearranged signal that the area was secure. Inside the small marina office, Director Harrison waited, a tall, imposing figure with silver hair and piercing gray eyes. He embraced Malik like a son. "You look just like your father," he said gruffly. "Director Harrison." Malik's voice held deep respect. "Thank you for coming. When the son of Ibrahim Hassan calls with evidence of a terrorist plot, I listen." Harrison turned to Elena, recognition dawning in his eyes. "And Elena Martinez, you've been a ghost for 3 years, not by choice," she replied. "Your father was one of the best operatives I ever knew," Harrison said. "His death never sat right with me." "It wasn't a heart attack," Elena stated flatly. "I'm beginning to understand that." Harrison gestured to a table. "Show me what you have." For the next 40 minutes, they laid out the evidence piece by piece. Operation Desert Wind in its entirety. The planned attacks, the financial network, the operatives embedded in governments across the Middle East, and most damning, Jonathan Caldwell's role as their American handler. Harrison's expression grew increasingly grave. "This goes deeper than I imagined." He looked up at them. "You realize what this means? The implications?" "That elements within our own government have been compromised," Malik confirmed. "That Jonathan Caldwell wasn't acting alone. And al-Rashid has powerful allies who will try to bury this," Elena added. Harrison nodded slowly. "Which is why we need to move immediately. I have a safe house prepared for both of you while we implement the takedown operation." "Both of us?" Elena questioned. "You'll need to testify," Harrison explained. "And until we've identified and neutralized all of al-Rashid's network, you remain in danger." Malik took her hand, his eyes asking a silent question. She nodded slightly in response. They were in this together to the end. "What about the charges against Elena?" Malik asked. "Already handling it," Harrison assured them. "The evidence you've provided clearly implicates al-Rashid's team in framing her for Caldwell's murder." A commotion outside interrupted them. Raised voices, then silence. One of Harrison's security men entered, his expression urgent. "Sir, Rashid al-Zarani is here. He says it's critical." Rashid burst in, blood streaking one side of his face. "They know," he gasped. "Al-Rashid is gone. Fled the country an hour ago. But he activated sleeper cells before leaving. They're targeting the UN General Assembly session today." Harrison was immediately on his phone, issuing rapid-fire orders for evacuation and counterterrorism protocols. "How did you find us?" Malik demanded, supporting Rashid into a chair. "Director Harrison's team extracted me from the apartment," Rashid explained, wincing as Elena examined his head wound. "Superficial," he assured her. The next hour passed in a blur of activity as Harrison coordinated a massive security operation. Thanks to the evidence Elena and Malik had provided, authorities knew exactly where to look, who to arrest, what to prevent. By mid-afternoon, news broke of a foiled terrorist plot and the arrest of multiple suspects. Al-Rashid himself had escaped justice for now, but his network was crumbling, his assets frozen, his allies under investigation. Operation Desert Wind had been neutralized before it could unleash chaos across the Middle East. "It's over," Harrison told them finally. "Not completely, these cases never are, but the immediate threat has been contained." "And Caldwell's co-conspirators within the government?" Elena pressed. "Being dealt with at the highest levels." Harrison's grim expression suggested a reckoning that would happen behind closed doors. "Now, about that safe house." "Actually," Malik interrupted, "I have an alternative proposal." 3 months later, Elena stood on the terrace of a villa overlooking the Amalfi coast. The Mediterranean sparkled around her, its azure waters a world away from Manhattan restaurants and international conspiracies. Arms encircled her from behind, and she leaned back into Malik's embrace. "Regretting your decision?" he murmured against her hair. Elena turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had transformed from arrogant stranger to essential partner in the span of a heartbeat. "Which one? Testifying against international terrorists, going into witness protection, or agreeing to marry you?" His smile still had the power to catch her breath. "All of the above." "Not for a second." She rose on tiptoes to kiss him. "Though I'm still getting used to being Isabelle Laurent." "Only on paper," he reminded her. "To me, you'll always be the waitress who turned down $1 million. And you'll always be the entitled billionaire who learned humility through justice." Their new identities, courtesy of Director Harrison and witness protection, were a small price to pay for safety. Malik had relinquished day-to-day control of his tower empire, though he maintained ownership, through layers of security that even al-Rashid's remaining allies couldn't penetrate. Rashid had recovered fully, now heading security for their foundation, the Martinez-Hassan Initiative, for international peace, funded by the very $1 million that had started it all. Justice had been served, though not perfectly. Some conspirators had escaped, others had been protected by political necessity. But the truth was known, their fathers' legacies honored, and the longest-running operation of betrayal in Middle Eastern politics had been exposed. Any regrets? Malik asked more seriously. Your life in New York, your career. My life as a waitress hiding from assassins? She laughed. Not exactly a difficult choice. The sun was setting over the Mediterranean, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. In a few days, they would be married in a private ceremony with Rashid and a few trusted friends in attendance. Life had taken her from diplomatic translator to fugitive waitress, to the fiancée of a reformed billionaire with a passion for justice. Not the path she'd imagined, but standing here in Malik's arms, Elena knew it was exactly where she belonged. You never did tell me, she said suddenly, that night at the restaurant. When you offered me $1 million, did you ever imagine it would end like this? Malik smiled, drawing her closer. Honestly, no. But I'm beginning to think it was the best investment I ever made. As their lips met, Elena silently agreed. Some things were worth far more than $1 million. Truth, justice, and love that began with an arrogant challenge in a New York restaurant and culminated in redemption on the shores of the Mediterranean. Sometimes the most unexpected beginnings led to the most perfect endings.